Hold up, why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bet.
Welcome back, y'all. This is the Miscellaneous Minds Podcast. I'm your host, Jesus Dinero, here with my co-host,
Puma El Gato.
What do we got going on tonight, my man?
TKO boxing pay structure has now been leaked, and it is absolute garbage. Let's talk about it.
So listen, what did I say? I told y'all again that I knew the pay structure was going to be dog shit for TKO boxing. And here it is again. We were right. Again, because listen, I don't care what anybody says, man. Anything that Dana White is involved in, he wants to be the one making money. Here's the thing. You know what's funny? I was reading the article that kind of leaked what was going on. Boxing Scene was one of them. There was a couple other sources. And only after a couple sources came out that I said to my boy here, we got to talk about it. So here's the thing. You guys will notice the pay structure. I'm going to put it up on the screen. While you guys are reviewing that, I want you guys to know. So Dana White is going to be paid as CEO of TKO Boxing $15 million. Now, I want you to really think about that. I want you to really, really think about that. So he's okay with paying a champion in their league $750,000 to defend the title while he's getting $15 million a year. And listen, if this is anything like UFC where they get like max, you're going to defend it 3 times a year. What is that? We're talking about 21, 1.2, 1.2, somewhere in that range that they can get max if we follow the UFC structure. More than likely what Dana White's going to do here. You mean to tell me as a defending champion, the max you can make is 1.2? And listen, I know for some people it's going to be an enticing thing because if you're a boxer out there and you're starting your dream up, right? You're chasing the goal. You really want to get out there and make a name for yourself. Hey, man. As an unranked opponent, 20K sounds decent. You know, there's a lot of club fighters out here that are getting paid 2-3 G's for fighting in the club. So, you know, hearing, hey, as an unranked fighter, I'm going to make $20,000. And there's the brilliance of what Dana White's doing. Because think about it. All these unranked individuals are going to slowly start going into the TKO boxing contracts, right? And all of a sudden, from the boxers that aren't in TKO, in the boxing league for TKO, they're going to be out here fighting all these people. And eventually, this pool of fighters is going to dwindle. And most of the fighters are going to be in contracts with TKO boxing. So that's going to leave less people over here. So what? Eventually, the long-term goal, I guarantee you, is to eventually suck so much competition out of non-TKO boxing boxers. That way, they eventually have to sign with TKO boxing. And listen, I really wanted to give TKO boxing a chance only because I believe that Turki Al-Sheikh is a fan of boxing. But after this type of move, paying a champion, 750 G's, and that's at the very top. Look at the pay structure that I put up on the screen. At the very top, that's what they're making. Everyone else, way below that. It's insane because here's the thing. How does it make any sense? Dana White is trying to apply his BS that he applied in the UFC and apply to him where it's not the boxers, it's not the guys that are getting the CTE, it's not the guys that are putting their lives on the line, it's not the guys that are taking the damage, the injuries, the so on and so forth. It's not those guys that are getting paid millions of dollars. It's Dana White that's getting paid millions of dollars. And here's the thing. I know Turki Al-Sheikh has agreed to all this. He's essentially funding the whole thing. I mean, I know they basically started not a venture capitalist group, but like an investment group, so to speak, to fund the whole thing. But again, you could be sure that more than likely Turki Al-Sheikh is the one funding it. So again, it's always Dana White getting others to pay him to essentially run these leagues so that he can suck more money out of them. Think about how crazy that is. How in any world is anybody okay with this? And you know what the funny thing is? I saw a lot of people saying what I'm saying, up against it, talking shit, because clearly a lot of the already champion title holders are making way more than $750,000. But here is a lot of people, the Dana White dick riders, applauding the man. Oh, he's gonna do the same thing that he did for UFC with boxing. Boxing doesn't need you. Boxing doesn't need you. The boxers are making phenomenal money. Yes, I understand. Club fighters and even unranked lower tier fighters, I understand they're not making a phenomenal amount of money. So that 20 grand that an unranked fighter gets in TKO maybe seems like a godsend, but it's not. It's a way to suck all the competition out of non-TKO boxers, put it into TKO boxing. That way, eventually, you don't have a choice but to go with their league. It's BS. We shouldn't tolerate it. And I really hope that everybody stands up against this BS that Dana White's trying to pull. The same BS that he pulled. Because again, even if you look at the highest rated Conor McGregor fighter, the highest that he ever made in a non-boxing event was 7-10 mil. Max. And you know what the funny thing is? When the lawsuits were going up against the UFC, it was leaked after. Dana White doesn't care about these guys. He pretends to care, but it came out in the documents, the sneaky and disgusting tactics that they used to chokehold their UFC fighters into basically accepting what they had to accept. McGregor, I think, I don't quote me on this, but I think the max McGregor made for a UFC event, not a boxing event. I know he made a lot of money with Floyd Mayweather, but for just a UFC only event, I believe the most he made was $7 million. And listen, I'll be honest with you. People that aren't anywhere near the tip top of boxing, people that are definitely, well known, but not anywhere near the top, made that easy. The Tyson Furies of the world, the Joshuas, the Usyks, the Canelos, the Floyds, the so on and so forth, they're the top of the pyramid of the boxing world. 40 million, 50 million, 100 million, so on and so forth. But no, Dana White wants that for him and his buddies, not the boxers. It's BS. And we need to call it out. What do you think about that, my man?
I definitely do think it's a little bit worrying, the fact that some of the big execs like Mauricio Suleiman, the top executive that's for the WBC, has basically come out and say that he's not exactly worried about it. And to be fair, there is, with this pay structure, if this is what he's trying to go with, there's chances that it could fail. But again, if it doesn't fail in the short term, it possibly could succeed in the long term, and that's what kind of worries me about that. And here's the thing. We actually don't agree with a lot of the points made by this individual, but when Paulo Malignaggi is voicing his concerns about what this could do to the sport of boxing, when Paulo Malignaggi is the voice of reason, this is the time when we should be saying, okay, this is when we should start worrying. And keep in mind, this was all before all this pay structure business was actually coming out in the open, and when a bunch of sources actually reported on it, now we got a taste of what was going on. And to be honest, again, it could be verified, it could be unverified, but given Dana White's character past and his past actions as a promoter for the UFC and the amount of fighter pay the amount of UFC fighters that were complaining about fighter pay. I was trying to think of the word complaints. And you see what this pay structure is kind of planning towards. Again, you talked about it right now. The $15 million that Dana White was going to have with leading the TKO boxing versus how much the fighters are going to get paid. And you think about TKO boxing, and by extension, the UFC wouldn't be where it's at today if it didn't have all the people underneath it, all of the fighters. And yeah, he's looking to pay them a pins. Think about this. One of the pay structures in there was talking about a fighter that was in the top 10 of their division. So let's say it's welterweight. The top 10 of the division was going to be paid somewhere along the lines of $50K, which on its surface, you're like, okay, that's already low pay, but whatever, who cares? When you think about it, where else does the $50K number come up? In the UFC. $50K is a bonus for fight of the night, meaning it is a special award. But for base pay, that's basically a pins. And look, I want to dispel any emotions from here on now that Turki Al-Sheikh is going to be here for the benefit of the sport. I think with the revelation of this, I think we can basically say he's not quite an enemy, but he's also not quite a benefit to the sport of boxing. Because when you think about it, he's funding most of this. If this pay structure actually does come out to be true and it's verified, he's basically becoming a competition to it. And think about this. This man was competition, or at least revealed to be competition, when we saw him sitting with Dana White at Noche UFC the same night that Canelo event was going on. And again, Paulo Malignaggi is actually kind of vindicated right here, because what did he say? He said that the UFC was trying to compete on the same night that Canelo Alvarez was trying to compete on that night up against Edgar Berlanga. And Paulo Malignaggi, as much as a Canelo hater he is, and if you've seen his broadcast, you know how much he hates Canelo Alvarez. He said, look, if you were asking me between whether I want to root for the UFC winning that night or Canelo Alvarez, I'm siding with boxing. I'm siding with boxing. Why would I want to be with somebody that wants the UFC to compete with the sport of boxing? And Dana White, now representing the UFC and TKO Boxing, is looking to compete with boxing again because Dana White has already said none of the WBC, the WBO, the IBF, the ring championships, they're not going to show up in TKO Boxing, meaning that they're direct in competition with that. And with this pay structure, it looks like he's looking to siphon off most of the people that are within the unranked portions of those organizations and looking to try and undersell them and undercut them right from underneath the legs. So I want to dispel any notions right here from now on that Turki Al-Sheikh is one of the greatest boons that come from boxing in the recent times. It happened initially, but now he's looking to be in direct competition with boxing and even underselling and underpaying the fighters that are going to be employed with them. Best believe that is exactly what's going to happen.
Listen, man, there's one final thing that wasn't talked about in any of the articles. I haven't seen any of the other boxing commentators talk about this, but I'm going to bring it up right here and now. If Dana White does what he did with the UFC, meaning he creates this league and then he signs them to a contract, it's complete BS. Because let's call it what it is. It's a slave contract. Because what's going to happen is he's going to pay them these funds and say, hey, I don't want to see you on any other show. I don't want to see you fighting for the WBC, the IBF, the IB, any of that shit, WBA, none of that shit. And he's going to basically own you for, what, $20,000 as an unranked opponent? For $50,000, top 10? For $350 as challenging the title? For $750 max as champion? It's insane. And this is the thing. I really need my boxing fans to not support this BS because I'm telling you right now, it's going to get worse. Here's the thing. This is what it is right now, but I guarantee you, they're going to start undercutting more and more and more because this is business 101. First, you corner the market, and then you kill off the competition. If Dana White gets enough boxers who need the money because they don't have another choice, right? You're chasing the dream, you may be broke, so on and so forth. If he gets enough of those and he siphons them into TKO with contracts, then the reality of it is eventually the non-TKO boxers are not going to have that much competition over there. And unfortunately, eventually, they're going to have to sign on. The only way that we put a stop to this is if as a collective, all the talent, anywhere from mid-tier to upper tier just says, nah, man, we ain't doing that shit. Because eventually, I promise you, eventually they're going to start giving them less and less and less because that's just how it is. It's already been talked about a million times by MMA commentators, by MMA journalists. The amount of money that UFC even the stars, the top tier that they get compared to what the UFC gets is even worse than the NFL, the NBA, so on and so forth, and all those organizations. They get a smaller percentage than those. But Dana White's gonna sell you on he's the guy. I'm saving boxing because here's the thing. Dana White has always been and always will be a boxing reject. He's always wanted it. Boxing is the girl that got away for Dana White, and he can't stand it that there's a business out there that doesn't want anything to do with him. We need to keep airing this shit out, y'all, because it's BS that this man tries to get away with this type of stuff. And I really, truly, truly hope. I know he's going to get some people because to some people, 20 grand is a godsend. So I know he's going to get some people. But those of you that can, the boxers that can, all you other boxing commentators, stand with us and making sure that Dana White does not get what he wants. Now with that, make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and
Until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you in the next one.